have the expert on. We have Taylor Lorenz on to talk about, you just put a video out, how they are trying to kill the internet, they being the government and these major companies. And also, this is something you've been talking about for a long time now. You've been trying to ring the alarm bells on, get people aware and get people to care. I know you've been fighting this fight, so I'm here to try and help you get people to understand how bad bills like KOSA are, why Discord and these other companies are doing these age verification, and what that means, also with Section 230, the attempts to repeal it. We got people like Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I guess he's a little too unemployed right now. So
wait, you're gonna die, Caroline. I'm texting you something else. Somebody else is also involved.
No! The
worst celebrity. The worst celebrity is always at the scene of the crime.
Oh no, y'all. Taylor just sent me this PSA featuring Seth Meyers, Amy Schumer, Josh Charles, Tony Shalhoub, and others. I'm sorry, but celebrities should, not that they care or are smart enough, but you should assume that if you're standing alongside Amy Schumer, you're on the wrong side.
On any issue.
On any issue. Yeah. You do not want to be doing anything with Amy Schumer. Mooney, thank you so much. Okay. So we're going to talk about all that. And I already told my chat that I want to kind of approach this as a explain like we are five. So I'm going to ask questions that might sound stupid or just ignorant. But I really want everyone to understand this as in as simple of terms as they can, because I do think with everything that's happening, one reason that people haven't been paying attention is because they're just so overwhelmed and they're like, what is all this stuff? KOSA, Discord, Section 230. I don't understand it. I think even in trying to approach learning about Section 230, people get overwhelmed by like technological terms, so essentially what we're talking about are our digital freedoms. We're talking about free speech.
And that affects our ability to organize IRL.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So, yeah. Okay, so let's just dive in. This is your forte, so I'm gonna have you take the reins on it. I will just pepper in questions. So I think we should start off with Section 230.
Yes. So definitely, if you want to understand it, I did just make this whole video that's an hour long that really explains it in like very, very basic terms, but I will summarize it here. Section 230, you probably hear it a lot, where it essentially means that platforms online are not treated as the speakers of the content that they host. I'm sure that already sounds confusing. Let me explain. So if you go out into the real world, right, in the physical world, you can yell all day long. You can do whatever you do. If you say something illegal, obviously you'll be held accountable for it. If you're not, whatever, you can go yell. The internet has no public commons, and we can get to the fact that it should, but it doesn't. It's not like a physical reality that exists that is the world. So the only places online that you can go to speak are platforms or spaces essentially that are set up by companies or organizations or people, right? Like, so if you go on Facebook, obviously Facebook has set up that little digital platform. If you go to comment on a blog, the blog owner, has set up that space for you to comment. If you join in on a forum, whoever runs that forum, system, or Reddit or something, like is responsible, or sorry, is, the person who kind of like is facilitating your speech. Section 230 basically upholds the liability sort of upholds platforms' ability to, so I'm trying to like say it in the simplest terms.
No. I know. Don't worry.
Basically, platforms cannot be held liable for your speech. Now, this is such a good thing. Again, if without this, you have to think that without this, we know what would happen without this. We see what happens without this. Platforms have to pre-screen every single piece of content, every single comment, every single anything that is done on their platforms has to be pre-screened for legal liability. So before Section 230, when the internet was just forums, and there was this famous legal case where basically someone said, well, it was actually about the Wolf of Wall Street, a whistleblower came on to this forum and it was like, hey, the Wolf of Wall Street, he's a scammer. And by the way, this whole thing's a scam and you guys should watch out, stop buying into his financial program or whatever. He sued CompuServe and said, basically, you guys operate this forum. CompuServe was a tech company back then. You guys operate this forum. You're legally liable for this speech. And so there was that case and this famous Prodigy case, these two cases that sort of established, led to the need Section 230. Now, lately, you hear a lot of liberals and leftists say, well, I think that's bad. I think there's all this bad, evil stuff on Twitter. Why can't we hold Elon Musk liable for all of the hateful content on Twitter? We should make him liable. That's going to be good. Elon Musk is terrible. I'm all for making him, suing him when he does illegal stuff, et cetera. But we actually don't want that legal precedent because that legal precedent would mean that every single platform has to pre-screen, aka pre-censor your content. And you might be thinking, okay, so what? Social media platforms. First of all, social media platforms, by the way, we can get to this, are actually advocating for Section 230 to be revoked because now this goes into AI, where they actually feel like they can eliminate all their competition by revoking Section 230 because they can pre-screen everyone's content with AI and they don't care about censorship. But forums, blogs, there would be no free speech online. You couldn't leave a restaurant review without Yelp. Like if you made Yelp liable for every negative restaurant review,
then you can't leave a review. Yeah.
Yeah. Or messaging. Signal is a platform. Telegram is a platform.
AOL
WhatsApp is a platform.
Was something that we all used. Mm-hmm.
Right. So AIM only exists because Section 230 passed. Otherwise, AOL would have been responsible for every single instant message that you send. So not to mention that if you repeal Section 230, there is no such thing as encryption either. It would break encryption. There would be no encrypted messaging anymore because these platforms would have to pre-screen every single piece of content. This is something that is really bad. And so I understand like the desire to like hold Elon Musk accountable, but there are actually a lot of other laws and things we can do, and I can get into that too, that would make all these platforms better and make them less evil, but not repealing Section 230.
And I've seen a couple of people say, but wouldn't the internet be an absolute hellscape if you could say and do anything you want? And this is where I think the kind of propaganda to influence people into thinking that 230 is a bad thing and we should overturn it because they're like, we need to protect people. Like otherwise people can just say, they can just say whatever they want.
We have protections.
Yes.
We have speech protections. They can't say whatever they want. I promise you, as somebody that's been sued and has been involved in lawsuits, people cannot say whatever they want. If you are doing threats, if you are doing illegal stuff, if you are, doing bad behavior to the point that it meets the definition of harassment, and should we threaten harassment? Should we threaten stalking? Should we strengthen some of these other laws that have offline corollaries? Sure. But that has nothing to do with repealing Section 230. And right now, it's kind of confusing, but Section 230 also, by removing the liability from the platforms, also allows them to do moderation at all. So the reason that platforms can even do moderation, and for instance, the reason that a BDSM forum can be moderated differently than a kids-only zone
is because of 230.
Exactly.
Yes. This is what made the internet... What gave the internet the ability for speech, for creativity, for the formation and development and growth of all these online communities and platforms that we're all a part of. And I think people who want to repeal Section 30, a lot of them they're misguided. I think like a Joseph Gordon-Levitt, this kind of language around protecting children that is actually being pushed by the right. And we'll get into talking about COSA and these other bills, but I want to stay on 230. I think that's what's motivating folks to say, oh, we do need to repeal Section 230 because there's all this bad stuff that's happening on the internet, and we need to be able to hold these, these sites and these platforms accountable for that. But one example that you have in your YouTube video is, I can't remember his name, but it was back in the AOL era, and he was getting harassed. It was like one of the first. Zarin. Yes, this is a big case that you talk about in your video.
Yes.
Zarin was kind of one of the first instances of online harassment, and it's something that people, he didn't even really understand because it was not as prevalent as it is today. And he reached out to AOL and told them, like, this is what's happening. You need to do something about it. So that was on record. AOL didn't do anything about these users who were harassing him. And so he sued AOL. And this went to the 4th District Court. And then ultimately they rejected his argument. But the reason that it was actually a good thing, and it was good for him and the rest of us as well, is because you explain that what that means then is if companies are on the hook because they don't do something after they have been reached out to by users, that means they're actually incentivized to not do anything, to ignore any user complaints, because they don't want to end up in a situation where there's a legal suit because they didn't take any action. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yes, exactly. If there was notice-based liability, they would do exactly what you just said, Caroline. We would be right back where we started, where you would have this CompuServe Prodigy problem where, like, they just wouldn't, they're like, oh, what? Oh, they're not like, we have to understand too that we're not operating in like an ideal world. And so these companies are always going to pursue the safest sort of option that also maximizes profits and is the best. Like in an ideal world, sure. Yeah. If you notify a company, they would be like, get right on that. We've got someone dedicated to, taking down this harassing behavior and investigating this case for you. In reality, companies are like, wait, I'm going to be liable if I'm notified. Okay. Well, then I'm not going to let users, I'm not going to listen to any, I'm not going to be notified. I'm not going to receive those responses from users at all. Or I'm going to pre-censor everything so that nothing basically that could ever be even remotely legally liable or critical of anybody else, especially mostly people in power.
I think people need to understand this isn't about protecting these companies. This is about protecting the people, the users, yes. Those of us who use the internet, which is all of us. Like, we're all on the internet right now. So it's not, don't confuse this and think this is about protecting these multi-billion-dollar companies. It's actually the opposite. Yeah. Okay. Y'all who are saying I do not use the internet. Mm-hmm, okay, sure.
But it's so the propaganda has been so effective because people think, well, this is a protection for big tech. This is a protection. And it's like, kind of, again, it actually doesn't say anything about protecting or liability in Section 230. Section 230, the crux of the law, is 26 words long. It's known as the 26 words that created the internet. Mm-hmm. And all it does is say that you are basically, that the platform is not going to be treated as the speaker of that content. And when you think of that, like, sure, no, Facebook should not be treated as the speaker of the content because I'm not operating it like a newspaper. I'm not writing in an op-ed. There's no editors. I am the speaker of my own content, and I still have liability for that content, by the way.
I think the other thing to keep in mind, because we're talking about free speech, we're talking about censorship. We know that this is not something that ultimately affects right-wing speech in the way that it does left-wing. Okay, we understand that attacks on free speech, censorship that is happening on in the digital world, this is terrible for progressive speech. We've already seen it happening. It is why the Ellisons and other MAGA billionaires bought TikTok, which was a bipartisan push in Congress. Both Democrats and Republicans wanted to wrestle control of TikTok from Chinese control in the United States and hand it over to American billionaires because they are trying to control information that young people, that young progressive people in this country have access to. And that's why a lot of these bills and a lot of these pushes to repeal Section 230 originate on the right. These are like Christian nationalists, right wing organizations and politicians. And then they'll get some Democrats on board. They'll get liberal celebrities like Joseph Gordon-Levitt. So you don't see this as partisan. You don't see this as benefiting the right. And I think it confuses people.
I think, what people need to realize is this entire plan was written in the 90s, and the right has been very consistent. They have actually followed the plan completely. A group that's been very pivotal in all this. There's two groups really that have been pivotal in this fight. The Heritage Foundation and a group called NCOSE, which now stands for National Center on Exploitation or something. What they were previously known as before they rebranded recently was Morality in Media. Okay, this is a far-right religious fundamentalist group that wants to eradicate LGBTQ from the internet and considers the Sports Illustrated issue pornography. And so Morality in Media, the Heritage Foundation, and a cadre of other far-right groups. Barry Weiss has been very involved in this. She's platformed Jonathan Haidt, who's like the main face of all of it. He works very closely with the Heritage Foundation and collaborates with them. But it's all written out very publicly in Project 2025. My favorite moment, I don't have time to find it right now, but there was this tweet from 2023, I think, when somebody was tweeted out like a piece of this. It was some article about repealing Section 230 and pushing, this kids online, all sort of under the guise of kids online safety. And the person tweeting is like, hey, by the way, this is really horrifying. The Heritage Foundation is going to remove they're going to remove all LGBTQ people from the internet. They're going to use this to destroy us. And the Heritage Foundation quote tweeted it and said, yes, we are. Mike Masnick on Tech Dirt wrote an article about it. But I wanted to lose my mind because it's like, they're not hiding it.
They're hiding it. They're like, yep.
They keep publishing blog posts. Like the Heritage Foundation published another insane Section 230 blog post a couple weeks ago. Like they keep doing it. They're talking about it all the time. And they're like, yeah, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. And then these liberals like go along. They're like, yeah, we're cracking down on big tech. Like FOSTA SESTA passed because it was the beginning of the techlash. Basically, in 2016, there was this thing called the techlash where Donald Trump was elected, and suddenly liberals were like, wait, tech is bad. And it's like, yeah, tech is bad because capitalism is bad and because of all these reasons. And like, there are actually things we could do to curb. I'm all for regulating the fuck out of these platforms and actually making a better internet. But you're trying to regulate the user side. You're regulating people. That's the problem. You're not breaking them up. Like you're regulating our speech.
And that is, I think, what is so important to understand here. The difference between regulating these companies versus users' speech. And I think it's gotten twisted. I think people see this as, we're going after these multi-billion-dollar companies. We're going after big tech in order to protect users. But it's the other way around. And I think, with Section 230, it hasn't been the entire time since 230 was put into effect that there have been these major pushes to repeal it. This is something, I'm probably wrong on this, but it feels more in the last decade.
It is because
it's
that's
really
when it
ramped
flipped.
up. Yeah.
So what happened? Listen, the Heritage Foundation, Morality in Media, these Focus on the Family, Moms for Liberty, all the far right fundamentalists have always wanted censorship. They were the ones they're the reasons. Section 230, a lot of people don't know this, was actually part of this thing called the Communications Decency Act. So that's why it's called CDA 230. The Communications Decency Act was actually pretty much repealed. It was this like moral panic nonsense in the 90s where they wanted to put like a rating system, like a movie style rating system on every website. It was like deranged. That was overturned. But Section 230 was actually a section of the Communications Decency Act. So they repealed the rest, almost all of the rest of the act, but Section 230 stayed because it was like the only good thing that they did. So all these groups have been on that stuff for a while. Like they've always been sort of right wing, but it wasn't until 2016, really, again, the techlash, or 2017, Trump came into office, but 2016, the end of 2016 election, that liberals started to think, wait a minute, tech is bad. And that, as they've been so public about, like Jonathan Haidt just talks about this, that gave them an opening where they were like, oh, we can resell the same fundamentalist stuff that we've been selling for decades. We can now change our name from Morality and Media to Nikosi. We can change it. We can go here and we can sell it to them as cracking down on big tech. We're cracking, and we're keeping the kids safe by cracking down on big tech because all these liberals hate tech. So that's the way we're going to sell it. And no one, they were like, oh, great. And the New York Times is on board and Washington Post is doing, like the coverage of it is crazy. Like, and no one on the left has been involved. And that's crazy.
I think I want to talk on that too, because the people who have spoken about this tend to be from already marginalized groups. And there's a reason that you don't see them talking about it, because they're already facing suppression, because they already have to deal with being deplatformed. And that's why there seems to be, but also that this isn't something that big liberal or leftist creators spend any time on. Like those whose content would be accessible and would be visible, and those who have talked about it for years because they're always the first in line to be affected by this stuff, they're already suppressed. Like we already,
Yeah, I just want to make it clear. Liberals are pushing it. So Ezra Klein, Ezra Klein has done multiple episodes pushing it. Derek Thompson, the Abundance Conference, actually had Jake Achelos, who's the author of some of this stuff, pushing it. Liberals have been aggressively pushing it, like Pod Save America, Jon Favreau. These people are pushing authoritarianism. Like unsurprisingly, liberals are going along with the Heritage Foundation's tech policy agenda. On the left, I mean, what was so heartbreaking is like 2017 was like the worst year because that's when all this like really started. Sex workers, trans people, every marginalized group was like, wait a minute. Like, hey guys, this is really bad. This is really bad. And everyone was like, shut up, basically. And in 2018, like FOSTA SESTA passed. FOSTA SESTA was the first, and it was the first amendment to Section 230 that is the only time we've ever chipped away at Section 230. It's the only time it's ever successfully happened. And and by the way, guess who's one of the two attorney generals, by the way, that were involved in all this? Kamala Harris. At the time, she was attorney general who was involved.
Classic. Yeah.
It's just like liberals have played such a key role in this. But sex workers were like, oh my God, this is so bad. They were making constant, like they couldn't have been louder about it. And people just didn't care. They were like, oh, well, it's fine if we like mass censor sex workers. But let me just tell you immediately what happened. Tumblr banned all adult content, and that platform effectively shut down. Vast swaths of the internet were shut down. We know that so much, like now we have research that shows actually like huge amounts of trans people, reproductive justice, anything sexualized was basically, that's when you started to see the mass deplatforming. So yes, have reproductive justice activists, disabled people, trans people, sex workers been loud? Yes, they've been loud, but they've been loud to an ever declining amount of followers. And ultimately they're not like, these are marginalized people that are most affected. They don't have the platform that someone like Ezra Klein has. You know what I mean? They just don't. But they're very involved. They're very, very involved. Like, as you will know online, if you do not mention, like which is amazing. I love them. I work with them. The Free Speech Coalition, which is the main trade group for the adult industry, is the only one even showing up to like at these state houses, like fighting these laws. But they're not a good messenger either, because a lot of this stuff is about moral panics and about inappropriate content. So when you have these sex workers coming online and being like, well, we shouldn't ban porn, like people, they're just not a messenger. Whereas somebody like, the Pod Save America guys, like actually could be that messenger to the normies, and it's just frustrating.
Yeah. God, what was I going to ask you about? Oh, just to also make, I keep going like, just to make this clear to people, Section 230 not existing means, or getting repealed means Taylor can't put out these videos. I probably can't stream on Twitch. Like this is what the result of it will be, because these companies then, not wanting to be held liable, will suppress this. They will outright restrict it. So the irony in like right now being able to put out all your videos and all your content to get people aware and concerned and involved to push back against this attempt to repeal it may not be an option if in fact this does happen.
We're already seeing it. Like, we're
Yeah.
already seeing this deplatforming. We're already seeing the downranking. We're already seeing, I mean, I think a lot of leftists started to understand this issue a little bit more personally when with the Palestine stuff, because not just the TikTok ban, which was unconstitutional and horrible. And but like, think how it is when you go online and you post about Palestine versus when you post about other things, right? Like, there is this mass deplatforming effort around specific issues. Now, you're probably not out there posting pornographic or, trans content. Maybe you're not a trans person. Maybe you are, but if you are, you know the censorship that you deal with. And
Yeah.
that will come for all of us. It's just a matter of like who it's coming for. And I don't want to play the like, I get frustrated myself, and I understand, like, when people are like, one of the amazing women who was like, really, she was like she was very involved in fighting Fasa Sester, this big sex worker on Twitter today, was like, she tweeted something like, I have no pity for you guys, like, I warned you or whatever. And I feel that way sometimes too, but it's like, but we have to understand a lot of people don't pay attention to tech policy. Tech
No.
policy is not something that the left, from a political standpoint, has centered for a while. So we have to understand that it's okay if people are coming to it late, but these things are escalating, and we do need to start paying attention to it and start fighting these laws, even if you only understand like the basics of it.
Yeah. I mean, one of the reasons that COSA has not passed is because of teens, because of,
Yeah.
trans teen activists who have been doing everything they can to push back against these bills, talking about how these bills are designed to take access away from, access to information away from them. So the kids who are, supposedly going to be protected under these bills being the ones leading the charge on trying to tell people how bad these bills are.
But that's exactly, and this ties into like the cell phone bans and the keep kids off social media and the like raising the age. They want to raise it to 16 and then eventually 18 to use the internet, basically. That's what's predicated on all this. Like, they want to dismantle a lot of this youth activism. That's why these if you ever see a headline that says so and so passed a law to protect child influencers, that's not what those laws do. That's not what they do. Okay. What they do is censor local news footage and ensure that basically local news companies cannot cover student activist groups, because to have a minor on screen, you now need to get consent, and you need to track, every minute they appear on screen, because you might have to pay them. And that is sold under protecting child influencers. So they say, oh, aren't you mad at those mommy bloggers? Aren't they so evil? We'll just sign this, look at this law that I'm going to do. And all of these laws, I think student activism and young people have been so integral in the fight for social justice in recent years. And they want to pass, campus-wide cell phone bans and all these other things so that students do not have the ability to speak out on wrongdoing or mobilize or get involved. And I'm not saying anything about classrooms and teachers or specific schools saying, hey, we have a policy to put your phone away during class. Everyone supports that. That's very different from having a law that a police officer who is on campus now is enforcing. And like, I want people to understand that difference too. Because when I start talking about cell phone bans, people are like, well, kids shouldn't be on TikTok during class. I'm like,
I know.
guys, you don't need a law that a police officer is enforcing
I know.
to have that happen.
But the problem is that it's obviously, there's things here that are true and there are solutions that are effective, but people get kind of caught up in the, well, it's just common sense. And they'll go, so you think exactly like the example you use. So you think it's okay for these 13-year-olds to just be on TikTok all day? Like, these teachers are having issues already with AI and with these cell phones. And no, that's not what the what you're advocating for, or what any of us are advocating for. It's that they are trying to push these laws by utilizing this moral panic. And these laws are actually, they are not designed to protect kids from, predators on the internet. They are designed to take freedom away. They are designed to target, say, trans kids from being able to access community and life-saving information online, because these bills are being shepherded by anti-trans politicians like Marsha Blackburn, whose whole thing is going after trans rights, going after the trans community. And this is one way to disguise it. And that's why they use kids. That's why they use dogs, like in the
The
freaking
Amazon.
oh my god, in the Super Bowl ad where it's like everybody loves dogs, and if a dog is missing, well, surely we would all want to find that dog. And meanwhile, it's this really insidious mass surveillance technology that they're pushing through, but distracting people, being like, don't we all care about children and don't we all care about dogs?
Exactly. And I think it's just such effective messaging because I myself, like Chapo Trap House, I hate to put them on black, like did this whole segment, like, oh, Taylor Lorenz, she wants kids to have phones and she's so brain rotted. How can she, blah, blah, blah. Like these leftists buy into this stuff. They buy into this framing. They're not anti-surveillance. They're ultimately arguing for mass censorship and surveillance. And it's so lazy because it's like, guys, do you believe everything that everyone like? Did you think the Patriot Act was for real patriots to help real Americans that are real? Like, please be for real. They give these things insane names, and we just need to stop accepting this premise. But so many leftists think that this social media addiction, moral panic framing is somehow tough on big tech, and it's not. I have made so many videos on this, and I fight with everybody every time I make it. But like, it's just not like you have fallen for a moral panic. Every single top researcher who studies kids and the effect of the internet on them came out almost 2 years ago and issued an 82-page report saying we're in the midst of a moral panic, and all of these claims about child
Mhm.
mental health issues, none of them are founded. There is no widespread, issues being called with issues being mental health issues caused by social media. It is a fact that if you are more depressed, you use social
Yes.
media differently, but that is not a causal thing. And these researchers even said, we know the causes. We know the causes of this rising rates in depression among teens, and they're almost entirely economic and social.
And
One in,
yes. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
no, nothing. You know
Well,
what I'm going to say.
I
Yeah.
was going to say too, people need to understand that this is also a distraction away from actually materially
Mhm.
addressing those
Mhm.
causes. They'll say, "Oh, you know, we'll just take the phones away. We'll just restrict them from social
Mhm.
media. Everything will be fixed. None of these kids are going to have mental health struggles. We don't have to worry about we don't have to worry about helping them access mental health care, health
Mhm.
care, because here's the solution that we are waving in people's faces over here. And they use, moral panic language so that people don't, they think it's great, right? They're like, yeah, that does make sense because I'm a person who uses the internet and I don't feel good all the time. So it does make sense that this is then causing kids to be kids to have mental illness. So if this is the cause, then we should take that away and everything is fixed.
But it's not the cause, and that's the thing. And
Right.
like, you can't get it through to these leftists that are like, but phone bad, but phone. And it's like, guys, no, like,
And I
no.
think what happens too is that people then start whipping out all the all the bad faith talking points and arguments, and they'll go, I'm like, Taylor does not think, nor does any reasonable person think that there is no, there are not solutions to implement as far as our internet usage. It's like, if you are a person who already is struggling mentally, yeah, maybe being on Instagram, seeing people's lives be depicted in this perfect way is going to make you feel, it's going to make you feel worse. It'll exacerbate that, but it's not causing you to have depression. And it's also like, just all of us should use the internet in a healthy way. We should all have the tools to, we should all have the tools and be putting those tools into practice to be good, the best type of users we can be online.
Yeah, I mean, we also know that the framing of addiction actually makes it harder for people to moderate use. So the more like, and there was a big study that came out of Caltech proving this, basically showing that the more people think of their tech use as an addiction, the harder it is to moderate. So it's
Hmm.
in the tech company's benefit for you to think that you're addicted to this thing because it makes it actually much harder for you to moderate your habits. I think so much of it reminds me of just like also conversion therapy stuff where like there's so many like fake study like I was talking to somebody recently. who was like, well, but trans kids, like they're all, they're all suicidal and it's all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, but they're not suicidal because they're trans. They're suicidal because of this is the way
Because
that
of the
society is
environment.
treating them,
Yes.
because of the environment and like all these things. And it's like same thing with these depressed kids. It's like they're depressed because of like many factors. Hundreds of thousands of children, hundreds of thousands, potentially millions at this point, because these stats were from 2022, have lost a primary caregiver to COVID. They have lost their parent to COVID. That is crazy. That is like losing your parent when you're like 13 is so much more influential. Not to mention, COVID is the number one chronic illness of kids right now. We're not doing anything to improve. And all these kids, some of these kids have lead pipes in school where they're getting toxic, waste all the time. Like, we could be making schools healthier. We could be fighting disease. We could be providing mental health care. We could also make it, a huge issue is the fact that more kids are growing up in dual working households where both parents
Mm-hmm.
have to work. This is again an economic problem. These kids are lonely. They're on their computer or their phone because both of their parents are working. That's a these are problems that we need to fix from a society level, and banning kids from the internet it's not going to help any of that and at all.
Yeah, I think too people we talk so much about the manosphere and young men being radicalized and just this proliferation of right-wing speech, and I think people point to that and go, "Well, how about this big problem that everybody's always talking about? Doesn't that doesn't that prove the point that kids should not be allowed on the internet, that they should be surveilling things, that they should be putting in these age verification laws in order to protect them so that they don't become radicalized and like shoot up schools or
But okay, but let's talk about this. This drives me insane because I also remember I'm a millennial. We had the video, but I wasn't even allowed to play video games growing up because my mom was like, "You will become the Columbine shooter. Like you play Mario Kart, like you will become a school shooter." And that was we were in the
yeah,
midst of a lot of moral panic about video games.
yeah.
None of that. And of course, none of that is true, right? We all today understand that as bogus BS. You should treat this social media stuff as it's actually the same people with the same message and the same goal. It's all involved. The men's misogyny and radicalization stuff really grinds my gears because there's this big study, I'm trying to pull it up, that came out that showed the number one predictor of young people basically becoming radicalized is actually their involvement with religion. And the more religious they
Oop,
are at a younger,
oop.
yes. So it's like, it's not social media that's causing it. It's also due to economic conditions and all of these other, like Donald Trump's like language, like the sort of the language that's being used in the media. Like there's so many competing factors. And I'm not arguing that the internet doesn't exacerbate it. I'm not.
Right.
But you have to understand that like, these things are due to so many different factors, and kids becoming vulnerable to this ideology is due to a lot of factors that are often not internet related factors. It's related to the house they grow, their economic conditions, like
Mm-hmm.
all of this stuff. I mean, even Clavicular talks about this all the time. He's like, money maxing is worthless. I looks max because it's the only thing I can control. Like that's a lot deeper than you watched a Nick Fuentes video at the wrong time in your life. Not to say that we can't make efforts to have a better internet, but I just think it's like these are all much more complicated problems,
Yeah.
and we're not going to solve them by, banning trans people from online spaces.
Yes. And I think that's the central thesis here, is that we can make the internet better. We can teach ourselves, say, how to differentiate AI content from non-AI content. These things that we should all be learning, but the solution is not mass censorship. It's not what's happening right now, what's being pushed right now as the solution to these real issues. And I think too, as far as the radicalization of young people online, there's a reason that these right-wing creators and grifters are so effective, because these are people who are being drawn in because they are vulnerable, because they are, responding to their real conditions and looking for, looking for that lifeline, looking for that community and finding it with these deeply misogynist, deeply racist grifters who are taking advantage of that. So it's not that they had a normal baseline and then all of them just become like, it's not coming out of nowhere.
Yeah,
They
no,
need
not at
something to
all.
be able to hold on to first in order to exploit it.
100%. And again, if we wanted to de-radicalize kids, like there's so much we could do. Like we could do so much. We could improve, public education. A huge thing is also kids don't have third spaces to go to. Kids today are much more likely to be basically trapped at home. Their parents are much more protective. Mostly because a lot more kids are kids of color. The racial diversity has changed in America over the past 30, 40 years. So there's a lot more kids of color that are witnessing police violence 24/7, ICE harassing people. Parents rightfully just want to keep their kids at home, but those parents are often working. Their parents are often busy. And so the kid is just left on the screen lonely, and there aren't
Mm-hmm.
like parks to go play in. And it's not even safe for a lot of kids to go do that. So these are big structural issues that instead of fixing them, it's like the school shooting stuff too. Instead of fixing any of this stuff, we're like, let's ban the internet and remove anonymity from the internet. And that's
Mm-hmm.
ultimately what it is, right? Like it's banning speech and removing the ability to even consume information anonymously. And we already see how that stuff is being weaponized and data like that is being weaponized by ICE, by the Department of Homeland Security, by the police today that are like, especially in the UK, it'll be like, like, why did you spend 48 minutes, on the Wikipedia for Palestine? Why do you follow XYZ people, right, on social media? You're seeing this actually, people are
Yeah.
just coming into America dealing with all this.
Okay, so let's talk about Discord, because a lot of people on Twitch use Discord. It's a popular platform for people in this world, in the gaming world. So can you explain what what this age verification update that Discord just rolled out? Although I think the CEO now is kind of trying to backtrack a little bit.
But they haven't backtracked any of
They're
the policies.
right. They're not
Here's
backtracking
the
the
mistake that
policies.
they made, or mistake if you're. I actually am glad that they did it such a poor rollout because Google and Meta already did this last year. Where was the outrage from you guys? You probably didn't experience it because they're doing it state by state. So there wasn't this like overnight thing. Although I did ultimately have to verify my age in or my like identity in Google, but what's happening is because on a federal level and a lot of state levels, you're seeing the rise of these identity verification laws. Age verification is identity verification. You can't know if someone's underage unless you know who they are, basically,
Mm-hmm.
or how old they are. Like you can't know how old they are unless you know who they are. And there's ways to get around some of the things that they do but it depends on the system. Anyway, long story short, it's about removing anonymity. So they're seemingly moving along federally because there's no like backlash. And then we have 25 states that have laws, identity verification laws in progress or on the books. 9 have already taken effect. So these companies are like, oh, well, we would love to harvest biometric data on children. That would actually be wonderful. We would love to harvest more data. Our businesses are all predicated on harvesting as much data as possible. So, whereas back in 2017, we were like hauling Mark Zuckerberg in front of Congress for Cambridge Analytica, like, how dare you harvest this data? Da, da, da. Now, they're not even necessarily being forced to legally harvest this data yet, but they're pre complying because they assume that the laws will come soon. And so they're just like, oh, well, we're just going to roll it out in the name of online safety.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no backlash. Thankfully, there's been backlash to Discord, but what unfortunately, it's like backlash to Discord, the company, and people not realizing that they're only doing this because of this legal effort. And every single platform is going to have to abide by the same policies soon.
Does this have anything to do with Discord being named in
Yes.
the
Yes.
Charlie Kirk or
Yeah. Because Discord is there's this like target list of tech companies basically that need to enact child online safety, AKA you better start censoring stuff
Yeah.
or Trump is going to come for you. Which, by the way, the same list was that Biden was telling these tech companies the same thing, but Discord has gotten wrapped up in that because they like say that it's leading to radicalization or whatever. Really, what it is, as somebody else tweeted, I retweeted them. It's Discord has actually become a really important tool for progressive organizers. So there's a lot of progressive organizing happening on Discord. Specifically, there's a Discord with thousands of kids, teenagers, organizing against COSA and against these types of age verification laws. So they want to shut all that down.
What do you mean in the Charlie Kirk? What? This was after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and the FBI put out a list of tech platforms that Tyler Robinson had, had. I don't even think though he had, because didn't they list Twitch too?
Yeah, they did. It was just basically like, here's platforms where progressive activism is happening, and you guys are responsible for this left-wing violence. We are going to like destroy you if you don't start protecting children, aka mass harvesting huge amounts of data that we, the government, can have to, prosecute your users.
They were like Tyler Robinson got radicalized because of Steam, because of Twitch, because of Discord. And so, we have to crack down on that radicalization happening. But that's all been, in the last couple of years, y'all, we have seen efforts from the right, which include right-wing streamers on this platform, to deplatform people like Hassan Piker and other leftist streamers. And they have pushed this, terrorist radicalizing is happening on Twitch, and this is dangerous. And of course, Twitch is like, well, we don't want to be held liable. They're like, we're not responsible for this. And so the easiest solution for them is to censor that speech. I mean, the other day I was talking about something and I got slapped with a sexual label.
Wow.
Yes, the type of label that they would put on, somebody in a hot tub doing like hot tub type streams. Yeah, they put a sexual label on my stream because I think someone had maybe reported it or something, and that then of course restricts me in the algorithm.
You see this a lot. I mean, my Threads account initially got banned because I tweeted about revenge porn. Like, so often, and especially if you talk about like feminism or LGBTQ issues, like you will be hit with sexual content. That happens all the time on Meta platforms. I don't know what Twitch is like, but Meta notoriously like catalogs people these way because that's how the right view, like that's who they're censoring for. They're just going to censor for whoever's in power, which right now is Trump.
Also, someone had mentioned that apparently Joseph Gordon-Levitt put out a video on YouTube to respond to the backlash she's been getting. I don't know if you've seen that. I think it was like an hour ago. You probably have not had time to watch it, but y'all, can somebody
wait
if you can link it faster? He's I think he's trying to pull the I'm not arguing it for it to be eliminated.
We just want it reformed.
To reform it.
That's the FOSTA SESTA. Like, here's the thing that I would ask. Here's the thing that I would ask Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Okay, if you're watching. You claim that reforming or amending Section 230 to restrict more content is going to crack down on big tech. Well, that is actually exactly what FOSTA SESTA did back in 2018. That was a major, major big deal. That is the first time we have done a huge carve out for Section 230, which made these platforms for the first time held these platforms accountable for content on them. What happened since? Has Facebook gained more or less power since then? Has big tech become more or less powerful since FOSTA SESTA? Obviously, it's only become more powerful and gotten record profits because these platforms do not require free speech to profit. The platform's profits are not predicated on free speech or free expression. They're predicated on harvesting mass amounts of data. What's the most effective way to harvest mass amounts of data? Through AI and surveillance. And what do these laws mandate? Mass AI surveillance and censorship. So I'm sorry, this man needs to just go back to acting.
Well, I think the problem is that he's not booking work. Is Joseph Gordon-Levitt stupid or paid? I
I don't think he's
I don't
paid.
think
I
he's
think he's
paid.
literally just like, I mean, look at Amy Schumer. Like, look at that other ad. That ad is actually from a couple years ago, but somebody just sent it to me today. But like, I'm just telling you, these celebrities get roped into these causes. By the way, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is an effective altruist. Okay, he spoke at the Effective Altruism Conference in 2017. His
Yeah.
wife was on the board of OpenAI. Effective altruism is the weird TESCREAL ideology that says like, basically, it doesn't matter the harm that you do while you're alive as long as you're helping. Like it's like what Elon Musk and all these
It's
people
weird
believe.
tech. Like it's right up there with the weird pro natalism and eugenics shit. It's like one of
Oh my
those
God.
beliefs that proliferates in Silicon Valley. Um, it looks too that okay, so he's using his own online company Hit Record as an example of why he believes that no, a company like mine shouldn't be held liable for all the things that anyone might post on the website. Like I do understand, he says, the logic behind 230. However, the internet is so different now. A platform like Hit Record is not
It's
how
only
most
12 minutes long.
people
We could watch it. Or I don't know if you can watch it if I'm on, but
um I don't know how
I'm going to make a response to this. I'm so pissed. Because
well,
here's the thing, like he's pushing all the like there's this idea, and I actually just made a whole video on this with Eric Goldman, the top lawyer on all these issues. Um, there's an idea that because platforms have like algorithms, like they shouldn't be held to Section 230. Platforms have always had algorithms. Okay, Prodigy and CompuServe, those were technically algorithms, the reverse cron algorithms. Like this idea that like there's algorithm, like it's ridiculous. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
um I know that I'm already at 7 o'clock and you have so much work you have to do. So I want to be cognizant of that.
Oh, that's
And
okay.
and you have to do your response video to JGL now. I just want to make sure that we kind of okay, let's see. As far as Discord, so we talked about how these platforms are already rolling out these age verification policies, even without the laws in place, because it's more anticipatory. They're like, okay, we'll do this. We'll get ahead of having to be legally mandated. And I think everyone understands why age verification is bad, right? Do we get why this is these companies and the government pushing the boundaries on our privacy as far as they can to see how many people just don't care, as long as they stay, then they'll just keep going. And it is, I know we've gotten used to our data being mined, but we should not be used to that. I know that we have Mark Zuckerberg, bragging about how he became one of the richest men in the world because people handed over their personal private information. But I think that's a big part of this here where we shouldn't normalize this. We shouldn't allow the government to claim that they're protecting American citizens' privacy while being the ones responsible for actually for actually stealing people's privacy, for spying on people, for setting up these mass surveillance systems by signing contracts with companies like Palantir for hundreds of millions of dollars to control the population.
Caroline, you said something that actually I think that a big content creator. I don't want to call him out on the Twitch drama universe, but a big content creator who's a little bit reactionary, who has somehow decided to be pro age verification, pro identity verification.
Who
I
has
don't
been
understand.
called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
um, so I saw a clip from him where he was saying, guys, Discord already knows everything. Discord already knows everything. If you think they don't know your age, you're mistaken. Which, by the way, refutes his own point. Exactly. They know your age. So why do you think they
Why
want to
are they
harvest all this
needing
data?
yes.
But let me explain to him and to you and to anyone asking why you should fight to protect your data. It is not like when you say they already have your data, they have maybe your data at this point. They don't have every single point of data ever. And you're constantly generating new data as you go through the world every day and do things. So even if you don't care about the government having your data, which I think he doesn't seem to care, that like the Department of Homeland Security is using this to, put people in concentration camps, you should care about it if you just don't want to pay more. Google just announced that they're rolling out surveillance pricing. Essentially, they're giving, tailored deals to you, but certain people are going to pay higher prices. Instacart just last year was found to have been charging certain users 23% more for groceries based off data that they're having. We know that your data is already being used. Third-party data brokers are, harvesting this stuff, and it's used to deny you healthcare, to deny healthcare treatment for you. Maybe you go and you, because healthcare providers are big buyers of this type of data that's harvested on you. Maybe on Discord, you were talking to your friend and you were saying that, maybe, oh, I smoked some cigarettes last night or something. That is now a data point that is fed into your healthcare, algorithm and can be used to deny you care. This stuff is used to deny you pay higher rates for car insurance, you pay higher rates for all this stuff. As surveillance pricing becomes more normalized, which it's coming, it's Walmart, Amazon, all these platforms are integrating it. Use a VPN if you don't believe that your data is being used against you, because you will see very quickly that like you are not, when they don't recognize you, you're paying different prices for flights, for groceries, for everything. So even if you don't care that the government has your data, and even if you're like, wow, everyone has my data anyway, they have your data only up until this point. Like you are going to create, if you're young too, you're going to create so much more data. You don't want to pay. Do you want to, Asmongold, do you want to pay more for your groceries because you said the wrong thing on Discord in 2017 or whatever, 2026, whatever year we're in? That's so stupid.
It's so stupid. It's so stupid. But also, obviously, he only looks at this as, oh, this is great because his entire worldview is Hassan Piker. So he thinks that this, surveillance
this is like
shit, that this
Ethan Klein
censorship shit, that this is going to this is going to hurt Hassan. This is going to hurt other leftists. So therefore it's good. But the other part here, right? The other
you're
part
screwed too.
Exactly.
And you know who did a great?
Exactly.
You know who did a great video on all this? Charlie, the Moist Critical Charlie.
Yes,
he did a wonderful video on Section 230. If you're gonna go stand some content creator, I don't even know what his politics are, but he did a great video on Section 230. The reality is that no matter where you are on the political spectrum, it's like the First Amendment. Does the First Amendment protect a lot of like evil speech that I don't agree with? Sure. But I also understand the First Amendment is a foundational right. And Section 230 is effectively the First Amendment for the internet. So enough with this influencer doesn't like it, but that influencer likes it.
It's bad for everybody. And that is what's so infuriating to try and explain to these right-wing creators or, people who are cheering this on, thinking that this is going to take out their enemies on Twitch. Censorship and an erosion of speech is bad for all of us. When constitutional rights are being violated, it's not a like, oh, my side is winning just because, your side is in office. It's people who kind of look at it very black and white that way, where they go, oh, well, Trump is in power. Trump is my guy. So therefore, these crackdowns on speech is it's good. It's something I support because it's hurting the other side.
Is what, like, it's so funny because Asmongold has like Democrat brain. Like that's Joe Biden's philosophy. Like Neera Tanden, the woman that I tweeted about who was like supporting all this stuff in the Biden administration, like the Democrats for years have embraced that same thought. They've been like, well, yeah, I should support tech fascism and authoritarianism because I'm going to be in the White House again one day and I want to be able to censor my critics. And it's like, okay, great, Joe Biden, you banned TikTok. How is this is fundamentally this authoritarianism and fascism, like I'm sure Democrats are like, I want to do fascism for us. But like, no one should be doing fascism. We all need privacy. And again, even if you don't care about the government, which a lot of people don't seem to care about the government, do you want to pay more? Do you want to pay 23% more for your groceries every week? Do you want to lose healthcare because you texted your friend the wrong meme or because you spent too much time? Again, they have your consumption data too. You spent too much time looking at the wrong Wikipedia page. You asked the wrong search queries, and now that data is being used to prevent you from getting a job or prevent you from something else because you have a risk score, which is something employers are increasingly assigning. That risk score is based on the content that you are also consuming online. Oh, you read too much radical content. You watched too much Caroline Kwan, and now you're not getting the job that you want.
Yep.
Like, you're so delusional. Okay, like, just
like fascism is bad. It is bad for all of us. And there have already been ample examples of people who are ideologically right wing who have been, have had the FBI knock on their door because these AI systems that they use to sweep online, and they just input certain words that they're looking for, and then people get thrown onto a database, and then, you know, the FBI knocks on their door. This is not like, oh, 100% target effective, that it's just Antifa
Right.
activists who are the targets here. And also, like, with immigrants, you know, when you see, so it's always very painful when somebody who's like, but I voted for Donald Trump, but I'm on the team, I'm right wing, and they've been surveilled by ICE, and their husband's been deported, or they're, you know,
Mhm.
or they themselves
Exactly.
are experiencing that. And it's always it's like the leopards biting, you know, biting
Yeah,
my face
leopards eating your
moment.
face. Yeah.
And that's why it's like, y'all, we are advocating for all of our freedoms here. You have to understand that. And it's not an us versus it's an us versus them. It's not us versus us, depending on, you know, what side you're on.
And don't, yeah, you just like your politics shouldn't be determined by like this might hurt an influencer I don't like. It's going to hurt a
I
lot of
know.
influencers you do like too. Like I mean,
Yes.
I think Charlie's video, like I don't I don't know him, but
He,
like he's it's just cool to see a YouTuber actually understand that Section 230 is valuable for all of us. For if we're an
yeah.
independent, like we should band together. I People say, oh, whatever. I support the rights of a lot of these right-wing content creators. I am a vocal advocate for them. When they were being deplatformed under Biden, I did speak out and I did talk about it. If you see my channel, you know that I am consistent on these issues, and I always defend speech, even speech that I find reprehensible, because this is a core value that I understand ultimately protects all of us against the government. So
And I think
that's
people
what
need
it
to
is.
separate that from like someone sending death threats, you know,
Oh
that
yeah, no, we're not talking about that.
But Taylor,
No.
unfortunately, I always have to clarify, because people be like, "Oh, so you think it's okay for, you know, Nazis to be threatening me on the internet?" It's like, "No, that's not, no one is saying that." What she's talking about is that we can't turn around then, and to any, you know, content creator who's not super duper leftist, advocate for their deplatforming as if that's somehow going to, you know, as if that's going to be like culturally and politically effective.
Mhm.
That's not the solution. And that's also not the same thing as like moderation towards harmful speech, which,
Yeah.
yeah, I understand that somebody being right wing, I get it. You're like, but that is harmful. But we're talking about like,
But here's the thing, you can protect like what we should be asking for. And I'm not a fan of top down moderation. And by the way, trust me, I've gotten harassed on the internet. I'm a veteran of harassment on the
mhm,
internet. So like I hate when people are like, but what about harassment on the internet? I'm like, you think that I don't care about harassment on the internet? I deal with it every day. But one thing that is so important that we don't have from these tech companies is user controls. They default us all to this miserable public experience where we all have to suffer and like deal
mhm.
with these. We could have things like restricting the content that you're exposed to, or even something as simple. It's crazy, it took Twitter like over a decade to just have like replies from followers only, or like Blue Sky has all these, quote tweets only, or on Mastodon, each server has different moderation and you can sort of pick your server based on the type of moderation that you want. We should have those types of controls for all of social media, and we should fight and advocate for all this stuff. And we should have interoperability where, you know what, if a platform gets really toxic, I can take my followers and go to this other platform, like the Fediverse model that Blue Sky is built on, that Mastodon is built on. That's the type of set that we should have. And we can take our data with us. Instead, we have this like hellscape because we've never regulated big tech in any sort of meaningful way. And because we're too busy asking, the government to just censor the content that we don't like, as if that's
Mhm.
not going to blow back on us immediately.
Yeah, so people understand there is a difference between regulation of these companies, of these platforms, and pushing through these laws that are directly attacking free speech, that are pushing censorship and mass surveillance.
Yeah, because they're like, we're regulating big tech. And it's like, oh, there's somebody did a good video. They're like, we're regulating big tech. And she was like, through privacy laws. And they're like, no.
Nope.
Through antitrust regulation?
Nope.
No. Through user controls and data portability? No. We're going to mass surveil everyone and
Yeah,
protect the children. It's like, okay, well, so we don't want that. That's bad, actually.
right. And it's in a format that's, you know, it has to be in a format like that because that is what's happening. it's like, oh, here are the things you can, the government can be doing to regulate these companies. And they are absolutely not doing that.
Exactly. No, they don't care.
No.
They're not going to. And by the way, Meta remains like, I think it's number 2 biggest lobbyist in Washington. Like, and Google might be number 1. Like, that's Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I can't wait to see what this man has to say. But
oh, I can't wait to watch your response video on it. Okay. Anything else before I let you return to your work of fighting this good fight?
No, thank you so much. Well, can you tell people? Yeah.
Oh, well, I was going to say, okay, I always like to make it very clear, though, that this isn't just all doom and gloom. This isn't, oh, we're fucked, we're cooked, we can't do anything. There's a reason that people like you who have been, this is your expertise and you've been trying to get people to be aware. You're doing that because we can do something here, because it's not hopeless. So can you talk
We actually stopped COSA already in 2022 and now it's back because there's been so there's 2 things. Number 1, yes, we have to kill these bills. Yes, we have to stop them. But more broadly, we need the left to talk about tech policy and center tech policy and realize it's not that complicated. And it's not that it is like, there is a lot of nuance and there's a lot of counterintuitive, like you were talking about the Zarin VAOL case. There's a lot of things that are counterintuitive. So it's hard maybe to grasp immediately, but watch 1 or 2 YouTube videos and I promise you can grasp it. But we need proactive tech policy. Aside from Ron Wyden, who's like one of the original authors of Section 230, no one in Congress on the left is proactively putting forward privacy legislation that would basically make all age verification obsolete or like protect us from surveillance. Those are the kind of tech policies that we actually want. So we can offer a proactive vision of tech that is a much more progressive future that actually allows us to have less profit-driven platforms. So that also allows for more competition so that Meta and Google, we don't have this duopoly. But in the meantime, we do have to kill these laws, because if these laws happen, then we won't be able to do that. So you can go to Fight for the Future, has a few good spaces set up. But if you go to whatissection230.com, I think it's .com or .org. No, sorry, .org. Whatissection230.org. You can sign this petition that they have. You can add your name, and then also you can see FAQ, and you can get up to speed on this attacks on Section 230. There's also badinternetbills.com, I think it is, which is their other website. I'm going to text these both to you,
oh, Katie, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, just so you have it.
You are, so I have your one YouTube video linked that you just put out about how they're trying to kill the internet, but you have tons of videos on this. You have a lot of people, you bring a lot of people on who are also experts in tech policy, who've really been on this shit. So this is a really easy way for you guys to learn more. This is how I've learned about a lot of this. Truly just putting on a Taylor Lorenz tech policy YouTube video, and she spells it out very clearly, and it's all right there for you to access. And we need to protect our ability to access that for people to keep making this kind of content. And that is why we were talking about this now. I think also, I don't know. I mean, if you watch other leftists, if you try and I hate to be that person, because sometimes it drives me nuts when people are like, can you talk about this? Can you talk about that? Can you talk about that? But I do think this is something that more leftists should try and talk about, so
it's the internet. If you lose the internet,
it's
like
the
this
internet.
is like huge. And also the right is doing tech authoritarianism. Look at how intertwined the tech world is with the far right. Like,
yeah.
To not be talking about tech policy at a time when tech policy is the main that is the main thing that we should be talking about right now. Like, if there's any time to talk about it, and you don't have to be an expert, but just keep it on people's minds, or just make it clear. Like when someone says Section 230 or something, you say, oh, we want to protect that, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't want identity verification. We don't want to save protect the children. Anytime they claim Protect the Children Act, like, don't fall for it.
Yeah. I mean, just today, Palantir executives, I was reading about how Palantir and AI money are going to be shaping the midterms. They're already pouring so much cash into these political races in order to have politicians who are very, very pro AI, who are very friendly to big tech. The same people who are saying that, oh, we're cracking down on big tech, we're regulating big tech. Meanwhile, big tech has only gotten more powerful. They are pouring. They're going to be pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into our upcoming elections.
Literally, this is what I'm going to ask Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Since the first major carve-out, since the only major amendment to Section 230, has Facebook gotten less or more powerful since 2018? It's like,
Joseph Gordon-Levitt, do you hear this? We're adding Joseph. You know what though? Considering that he did put this video on YouTube and he is at least online enough because he's got that one company and he's talking about these internet bills, there's a good chance he may see your response.
I'm going to spam him until he does. And then I'm going to email his comms person. I don't know. But there's a lot of celebrity. I mean, Amy Schumer is one that is involved. Like, there's a lot of celebrities that are unfortunately being used for this cause. He's just my latest letdown because I thought he was progressive. But
Same
there's
with
a lot
Seth
of
Meyers.
I know.
I'm really disappointed to see that.
They're getting roped in because they don't know any better. So we got to hold them accountable, and we have to say, like, listen, no, you can't be posting, fuck ICE on your Instagram and then trying to repeal Section 230 or amend it.
Yeah. Has John Oliver done any coverage? I thought he did something on Section 230 once.
Yeah, he did. He did like a while ago. Yeah, last year. It was a while ago. I think he did no, he didn't. He's covered the FCC stuff. No, he hasn't. I think he's like mentioned it in different ways, but
he hasn't dedicated like an entire.
No.
Yeah, because he has an episode on Facebook and content moderation. I did see like one
which
short
is not
of his.
The content moderation one was bad, unfortunately. There's a good tech dirt kind of like takedown of his content moderations. I think it's just like the thing is, a lot of these people also like flow from the public vibe. And if the public vibe is like, no, we don't want this. Like, like this is why people on the left with platforms that are not just the marginalized people that are affected really need to start speaking out and posting about this stuff. Just share what is section 230.org. Just like share this stuff. Cause we got to like shift the narrative.
Mm-hmm. So go watch Taylor's YouTube videos, go talk about this online, go, don't say I sent you, but maybe pester your other leftist, the creators that you watch, maybe just not pester, but just say like, hey,
you can say I sent you, and you can spam all their chats and say, talk about tech policy.
You can say Taylor Lorenz sent me and she needs everybody to talk about this. And Taylor, thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I'll probably, I think it would probably help to have you on again soon.
Anytime.
I'm sure there'll be more shit to talk about with this here, but I just wanted to like get a baseline. And I know that you have been working tirelessly to advocate on this and to educate people. So thanks for coming on the stream.
Thank you. All right. Bye.
Okay. See you, sister. Bye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to that conversation. I hope that was helpful. Trust. I understand the concerns. I understand but the internet, there are bad things that are happening here. There are bad people, and I get all of that. And before I understood more about what these laws were, and before I understood the difference between like real regulating, and then passing these censorship bills that are disguised as protecting kids, as protecting us, and they're really not. I totally get it. And that's why it was important for me to do further research. I have read, these studies. I have talked to people like Taylor who really, really understands this stuff. Taylor is one of the most harassed people that I know online. She's always got stuff going on. She is not a person who like thinks all of that is fine because, she personally experiences it, but she draws the distinction, which is a very important distinction between regulating hate speech, between regulating these tech companies, between actual, protection of our privacy and of our data, and these bullshit laws. These bullshit laws that bipartisan Congress are supporting, because they actually, it's actually the opposite, in that it is good for big tech, and big tech is who is funding these politicians, and it is good for their ability to control our speech and information that we can access. And they're not even really that clever in how they disguise it, because if you do even just a little bit of digging, you'll see exactly what this shit is all about. It's just that they use shit like the Child Online Safety Act. They will use these Super Bowl commercials where it's like, oh, a lost dog. Don't we all want to find a lost dog? And they kind of distract people that way. So anywho, I hope that was helpful. If you're still wanting to, if you need clarification, if you still want to learn more, go Tech Dirt does a lot of great reporting on this. Wired does some great reporting on this. Taylor's YouTube channel, she has a lot of other tech journalists on, and they talk about this kind of stuff, and she really breaks it down. So there are all of these resources for you that are very, very digestible.